A funny thing happened on the way to South Korea. President Trump seems to leave his usual fiery rhetoric toward North Korea back at home. Gone is little rocket man. No more fire and fury. Instead, a somewhat traditional, dare I say, diplomatic request for North Korea to come to the table. Good, bad, smart, dangerous, or are you indifferent? You're not allowed to be indifferent. The panel tonight. Nan Hayworth is here, a former Republican member of Congress and a member of the board of directors for the Independent Women's Forum. Margaret Hoover is a CNN political commentator, and she worked in the George W. Bush White House. Caitlin Huey-Burns is a national political reporter at Real Clear Politics, and Karine Jean-Pierre is a senior advisor at MoveOn.org. She served in the Obama White House. Let's get to it, friends. Margaret, what Trump do you believe? Fire and fury, Trump, or we're making progress, Trump, on this front?
Here's the challenge is both are actually Trump. And what happens is Trump unattended, late at night, early morning tweeting is Rocket Man Trump.
Wait, but whose time zone?
Right?
Whose time zone are we on?
But right now, Donald Trump has, the most skilled negotiators, advisors, and geopolitical experts around him, organizing and orchestrating a highly choreographed, incredibly important, high-stakes international trip, which has to be a success for him, not just politically, but geopolitically.
Yeah.
And so he is, in the words of Bob Corker, the daycare center is on full alert right now. and not truly, there is actually very little room for error right now, and I think President Trump knows that. And so Rocket Man, which really was from his heart and was sort of bombastic and flippant and last minute, is off the table right now.
Off the table for right now. How long is, of course, a question. But we have, I was thinking about this today when we were seeing a change in tone from the president. We've seen a change in tone from the president before on issues like DACA recipients, on issues like working with Democrats, on a multitude of issues. But from those examples, does that tell us anything about this change in tone?
Well, I was thinking about kind of how he's handled diplomacy just in these past few months. And remember when he was talking very tough on China during the campaign and even in the beginning of his presidency, and then kind of backed away a little bit when he was trying to establish a relationship with the Chinese president. He has established a good relationship with the Japanese prime minister who he met with yesterday. When it comes to South Korea, he did come under fire before for tweeting about how South Korea isn't doing enough. And I think Margaret's exactly right. He's in this kind of orchestrated environment. He didn't go to the DMZ for a reason on this trip, so as not to kind of provoke people. But I think as soon as he returns stateside, we've seen him, pick up the phone again. Interestingly enough, he won't have access to Twitter while he's in China.
So that will China doesn't allow it.
Exactly. So we might see a different pace there. But I don't
actually know what we're all going to do.
I think this is temporary for now.
Well, Nan, what's your take on this? I mean, no one knows exactly what the president is planning for this speech or what the president is planning and really what he thinks U.S. policy is toward North Korea. A lot of folks want to see more on what his policy is. But is there a political risk back home to softening his tone to be more traditionally Republican and diplomatic? I mean, I've heard from a lot of Republican lawmakers, it might feel a little, what's the word we always use? Unconventional, but it's doing something different with how Trump has dealt with North Korea. This feels like traditional.
Well, I think the president is, we know how Google's developing a quantum computer. The president is practicing quantum politics. Basically, he is Schrodinger's president.
I have no idea what that means.
So,
just like I have no idea what a quantum computer is.
I'll explain. Schrodinger's cat. 1 minute it's in one position, but simultaneously it's in an alternative. The president practices a range of rhetoric because he knows that there are moments when he has to be tough and there are moments when he has to be diplomatic. What he's doing in this process is also steadily building our economic and military strength.
You believe that it's both Trump? You believe both Trump?
I do. I absolutely do, Kate. And I don't mean to say that they are contradictory, but they are two sides of the same coin. He is driving towards what ultimately he hopes to be a peaceable solution, a diplomatic solution, but he has to make clear that we are willing to use the might that we have, and he's building that might. That's where the credibility comes from. So that when he says, look, I have no patience for this or that behavior from the North Korean dictator, they know that he is serious, and our allies know that he is serious.
Here's one thing. I feel the military options today are the same military options as a year and a half ago when Obama was president. They're the same military options that have been on the table Donald Trump likes to talk about them a little bit more. But they're the same military options. Yes, I will agree. Republican, and that's why I asked you. Republicans have not liked how Obama dealt with any foreign policy issue. But this sounds more towards an Obama foreign policy.
Well, what I will say is, as I understand it, there is a range of options, tools in the tool belt, if you will, that the Obama administration simply chose not to deploy that have more to do with the soft power behind the scenes, leveraging China, truly. And we have said leveraging China for years and years and years. But
we're not just talking military options, we're talking soft power.
Okay. Right. Okay. And that this administration is using finally that were actually never deployed in the Obama administration.
And we're putting missile defense systems in South Korea.
Including. Do you believe both Trumps?
Look, I'm really excited that Donald Trump is not himself right now while he's abroad. It's really good to see because before this, he was basically setting us on a path for a potential war with the horrible, dangerous rhetoric that he was espousing with North Korea. And also, we have to think about these millions of lives that he was putting at risk as well. I think the thing is, how long will this last? I think that's why Democrats are very kind of suspicious because in the past, we've seen it doesn't last more than 24 hours.
And getting to the point of lives at risk, Democrats are now calling for an accounting, essentially, of what a war with a preemptive strike, with a ground invasion, with in North Korea, what the cost of that actually would be, the human toll and the actual financial cost of it. Do you think the president should be required to lay that out?
I think he should be very aware of it and act as if that truly exists. We saw what happened with Iraq when the president then was not honest to the American people and the consequences that it led to us, led for us, our country then. So, yeah, I think that he needs to at least act as if, because there is no military solution to this. It has to be diplomacy.
But when it comes down to it, the tools are in the tool belt for a reason, because they're real. It's a real threat. But Trump ran and won on the promise that he would not telegraph his military moves, Margaret. So can both of these
really promise that in the context of Afghanistan? Really, Afghanistan.
I feel like on everything though. Right. When he doesn't want to answer a question about something, he'll say,
"Why am I going to give away the secrets?
Why am I going to give it away?
Then you'll know what I'm going to do.
You wait and see, or I'll let you know soon." And there's a lot of that. The same could be said for North Korea.
Kate, I think that accounting demand is actually dovetails right into their attitude about tax reform. I think they want to use it as an argument to say, hey, we shouldn't be lowering taxes because look how much a war might cost. Well, I mean, I think it's a political statement about their feeling about the president's diplomacy.
I spoke with an Iraq War veteran, Tammy Duckworth, who said she's like, one, we all know she's not a dove. She says if the situation, if the reality requires a war with North Korea, I think it should be spelled out what that looks like to the American people.
Yeah, I think the president should. I think you're exactly right. The president should know.
And because the president ran on withdrawing U.S. presence from around the world, right? Yeah. I mean, he explicitly kind of campaigned on this idea that we are involved in way too much. Now, with the Syria strikes, we saw him kind of make the public argument, for example, and I think he can do that. I think his supporters will go with that if it's through a national security lens.
Really make the public argument.
Right, yeah,
to be clear, children dying of poison.
It's an unbearable cost.
But I'm still not sure.
It's tens of thousands.
But when it comes to diplomacy with North Korea, moving off the military, are we at the negotiating table, or is Rex still wasting his time? I'm still not clear.
We're back to the negotiating table. We're hoping to get him to the negotiating table. That's what the president's telegraphing.
I actually think Rex Tillerson is winning the debate right now because of how we've been seeing.
You might need to tell Rex Tillerson. He might not be winning. Stand by and check your calendars, folks. It is election day in America. Why one state has the whole political universe buzzing and a